Alright, what's up guys? New video today. We are doing another tier list. We are doing Dark World. This is a very exciting deck, very fun deck to play. There are a lot of amazing cards in this deck and a few really bad cards. But it's a very fun deck to play, and we're going to get it started. If you have any specific cards that you want to see in the future tier list, let us know. And most importantly, 87% of you are not subscribed, so might as well hit that subscribe button, join the party, and become a part of this process. But let's get started. Let's not waste enough time. Right off the bat, we've got
Azure, Knight of the Dark World.
Yeah, this card is an F tier. It is not good. It doesn't have any of the discard effects. This card's trash. I don't know why you would want to play it. The only reason you would even think about playing it is if you wanted to use like Rescue Rabbit, summon it out, and then bounce it back to your hand for free with Grapha or something like that. But it's still just...
It's just not worth it.
It's not worth it. It doesn't make any sense. Next is, who is this? Big hands here.
Renge, Gate of the Dark. Gatekeeper
Renge.
of the Dark World.
Yeah, these were in the television show, but they weren't any good in GX. They're not good. Next is Grapha.
Dragon Lord of the Dark World.
This card is really good. This is your boss monster of the deck. It has like 3 really good effects. Effect number 1 is if you control a Dark World monster, you can bounce that monster back to the hand to special summon this card from the graveyard. It's a special summoning condition. It's not an activated effect, which is really good. It's an inherent summon. It's very good. Secondly, this card has an effect where if it's discarded by a card effect, you can pop a card on the field, and then if it's discarded by your opponent's card effect, you can pop a card on the field, plus you can basically select a card randomly from your opponent's hand. If it's a monster, you can special summon that monster. Be honest with you, that effect doesn't come up as often as you think, but once in a while you can actually force it with cards like Ceruli. But there's better cards to use with Ceruli. But definitely this card is one of the better cards if you're going second in the deck, because it can help you pop a ton of cards. One big problem with Dark Worlds is that you can only do stuff off of a discarding effect, like card destruction, for example, or graceful charity or something like that. You can't discard for a cost, so you can't use cards like trade in. Yeah, you can't use trade in on Grapha. I mean, you can, but you won't get its effect to pop things. You can only do it if you discard as a card effect. But definitely, this is one of the best cards in the deck. It's free special summon. Bouncing a Dark World is very important, because when you bounce a Dark World, you put the Dark World back in your hand, and you have a chance to re-discard it again, and then re-special summon or get one of its special effects or abilities again.
Another big thing about Dark Worlds, now that we've gotten into our first effect monster, is that aside from like 2 cards, none of these cards are once per turn. They're like very old, so they don't have once per turn effects at all. Yeah, not in the slightest. So you can actually loop things a lot, especially with the new what's it called?
Dangers.
Yeah, the dangers, link monsters. So you can constantly get Grapha back in the graveyard, can constantly bounce them back, and then Pot of Avarice being out, you can just constantly do things over and over and over again.
Yep.
We probably should have thrown a few dangers in here just for honorary mention, but
yeah, some of the dangers are good too. I mean, this deck basically, you can't play this deck without dangers. It's virtually impossible.
Not anymore.
Next is Rainbow.
Overlord of Dark World.
This card is interesting. I'd say it's somewhere around C tier. It has a good effect, but this card only works off of if your opponent discards it. So it's not one of those cards where if you discard you get an effect, or if your opponent discards it gets a different effect. It has to be discarded by your opponent. So if it's not discarded by your opponent, you don't get this effect. But if it's discarded off of your opponent's effect, you can special summon it and then destroy either all of their spawn trap cards or all of their monsters. That's not bad by any means, but the problem is sometimes this card will just get stuck in your hand if you don't. If you don't have the right cards.
Or you'll discard it and then not get anything because you activated like Dark World Dealings or something.
Yeah.
And it was the only thing you could discard.
Next is Lucent. He's another good card. He's either A or B tier. Really depends on which way you slice. I'd probably put him in A tier. He's actually fairly good. He's another one that if he's discarded, he can special summon himself. He's 2400. Like, he's pretty strong. Pretty big level. I think it was like level 6.
Mm-hmm.
But basically his effect is if he's discarded by your card effect, you special summon him. If he's discarded by your opponent's card effect, you special summon him, and then you special summon any fiend monster from your deck to either player's side of the field, which is actually pretty cool because you can give your opponent a card called Idol, or you can give them the Dark Barrier statue, and you can put a floodgate on their side of the field that prevents them from playing, but it doesn't really prevent you from playing, which is pretty cool.
Or you can give them the fat boy, what's his name?
Ceruli,
and he can make, when Ceruli special summon, your opponent discards a card. So if you special summon it to your opponent's side of the field, you're the opponent to that Ceruli. So it makes you discard a card, so you get the secondary effects from all your Dark Worlds.
Yep. But it's definitely one of the better cards in the deck, for sure. I see myself playing this one a lot. Next is
Latinum.
Latinum.
X-Arc of Dark World.
This card is trash. He has just terrible stats. He's D tier. He's a level 6 with 1500 attack. Basically, if he's discarded by your effect, you get to special summon him. If he's discarded by your opponent's card effect, you get to special summon him, and you can target one monster you control, and that monster gains 500. That's like, it's not easy to make your opponent. It's not easy. Your opponent will not make you discard a lot for a card effect all that often. So this card is just, it's not good enough. The effect has to be like really good if it has to come off of your opponent discarding. A Rainbow has a good effect, but it doesn't have like a good special summoning effect. That's why it's in C tier. But yeah, that's why this card is where it is. Next is Silva. This is either B or A tier. It's a very good card. Basically, what Silva does is if it's discarded off of your effect, you can special summon it from the graveyard. If it's discarded off of your effect, if it's discarded off of your opponent's card effect, you can special summon it, and then you can take 2 cards out of your opponent's hand and shuffle them into the deck, which is one of the best ways to get rid of them.
We'll put them at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah.
But even still, that's, again, the Dark World cards aren't once per turn, so like you can, in theory, it'd be pretty difficult, but you could actually loop this and just hand loop your opponent. It's just a little difficult to do so, but it is a possible strategy. And even if you just do it once, it's still hold 2 cards out of their hand. Like, it's just crazy.
Next is Gold. This is another one. He's a lot like Silver. I'd put him somewhere in C. He's worse than Silver, but he's still decent. Basically, what he does is if he's discarded by any card effect, he's summoned to your side, special summon to your side of the field. If he's discarded by your opponent's card effect, he's summoned to your side of the field, and then you can pop 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field, which is worse than Silver is. I mean, for going second, Gold is better. For going first, Silver is better, but Silver overall is just a better effect. Next is Braun, basically
Mad King of Dark World.
Basically LeBron James. This guy is not good at all. He's like way too slow. Basically, he's 1800 attack, so his stats aren't that bad. But if he inflicts battle damage, you discard a card. It's just it's not good enough. You don't want to have to enter the battle phase to discard cards. Like, you have to understand, this card is only useful going second, and for those reasons it's kind of like trash. It's only useful going second. You have to inflict battle damage, then you get to discard a card. It's just too slow.
And more likely than anything, you have to normal summon it because it actually can't special summon itself.
Yeah.
It has no like discard effect itself.
Next is Snow. This is Dark World Snow. This card is really good.
Snow Unlight of Dark World.
Yeah.
They have such like
dramatic names.
Yeah.
But Snow is the best card, one of the best cards in the archetype, if not the best card in the archetype. Basically, if this card's discarded, regardless of what happens, you get to search
for any
Dark World card. Spell, trap, monster, it doesn't matter.
The whole archetype.
Yeah, the whole archetype. You can search every single card that we have here. That's what it does. If it's discarded off of your opponent's card effect, you can special summon a monster from the graveyard.
Your opponent's
graveyard. Yeah, your opponent's graveyard, which is, again, very, very good, especially if you're going second. That's if it's discarded off of your opponent's card effect. So you get to search, plus you get to special summon a monster from their graveyard. So it's really good. Next is Beige. Beige is either B or A tier. It's hard to say. He's basically a free summon no matter what, but he's a level 4, and he lets you work with the level 4 toolbox. Lets you go into stuff like Dugaris, which actually does not discard for cost.
Which helps extend your plays and whatnot. Yeah,
you can go into Dugaris, stuff like that. So the rank 4 toolbox is very good. He's very good with the dangers too, the level 4 dangers, which are Mothman and Chupacabra, which is also very, very good in this deck. Mothman, Chupacabra. because one is a fiend, the other one has a Dark World Dealings effect built into it, even if it's selected to be discarded. So either way, this card has very good synergy with that whole route of the deck. Next is Brow.
Huntsman of Dark World.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's discarded, you get to draw a card. And if he's discarded by opponent's card effect, you get to draw another card. Which is like... It's like you activate Dark World Dealings, and it's like... Dark World Dealings is supposed to be like a 1-for-1 kind of thing.
Yep.
And then like... But if you discard him, then you get like that draw. So it's like... It just works out better. And if you even want, you could even... when you Ceruli your opponent, you could even discard this just so you draw 2 cards. Just to dig for something a little deeper. Just to draw into the right thing or see what else you get to extend.
Next is Scar. Scar's effects are bad.
Yeah, when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, add 1 level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck to your hand. You can't even add the
slow.
Goat Grapha.
Yeah, way too slow. It's not good. It's way too slow. It's even worse than normal monsters. It's that slow. It's that bad. Next is Gorilla. This is another bad card. This card is basically Grapha. The next two are basically Gorilla and Tactician are basically Grapha split into 2. They have terrible stats.
One of Grapha's effects split into 2.
Yeah, this basically, if this card is discarded, you get to pop a monster. If this card is discarded, you get to pop a smaller trap card. So basically, it's Grapha's effect, but in 2 different monsters. One of Grapha's effects in 2 different monsters. And these cards have terrible stats. What are they, like level 2 something? Yeah, they're level 2. They have 300 attack. They're just garbage. They're just terrible cards. You have no reason to run them. Graph is literally better than both of them. Plus, he has a bunch of other amazing effects. Next is Ceruli. This card I used to not like, but he's like, in my eyes, he's gotten a lot better recently. Ceruli is really good. Basically, what Ceruli does is if he's discarded, you can special summon him to your opponent's card effect. And then if it's summoned to your opponent's card effect, it has an effect to discard a card from the opponent. But now the opponent, you're the opponent of that Ceruli because it's on your opponent's side of the field. So you basically get to discard a card from your hand, and it counts as your opponent's card effect, and you can trigger all of the secondary effects of all of your Dark World monsters because of this Ceruli's effect, which is really good.
And if not that, then you can always just summon him to... You can activate a Dark World card, because this effect happens when he's special summoned by the effect of a Dark World card.
Yep.
So you can always summon him to your side of the field and make your opponent discard 1. So you have Silva discarding 2. You have this. I can discard 1. That's like most of your opponent's hand. If they're going second, you're going first. They're gonna start their turn with 3 cards in hand. That's pretty crazy.
Yep. This card's really good with the March of the Dark World card. Basically, it's the spell card. Basically, the reason that this is good is because you can summon it from your graveyard, and then it activates automatically because since it got summoned off of a Dark World card, and it can discard a card from your opponent, which is really, really good. Also, you can summon it off of Lucent to your side of the field, and then discard a card from their hand also. There's different ways to do it, but it's a very good card. Dark World Dealings. Honestly, this one's a little controversial, but I think this is at the bottom of B tier. This card is very good if you're going second because you can make your opponent discard like their hand traps and stuff under certain circumstances. But the issue with this card is when you're going first with this deck, it actually helps your opponent set up more than anything, which is really frustrating because sometimes your opponent will actually have a bad hand or they'll just have an okay hand, or in some cases they'll have a good hand, and you activating cards like Dark World Dealings will help them set up their graveyard for the following turn so they can just go directly into really, really easy and good plays. So in a lot of ways, this card actually helps your opponent more than it hurts your opponent. So be very careful with it.
And it's also kind of tricky because before the dangers and all that, you had to run this because there's actually not that many ways to discard your Dark World monsters.
Yeah, where it's not cost.
Yeah, where it's not cost. So this was a very necessary evil to say.
Yeah. Next is was it March into Dark World?
Charge into a Dark World.
Charge into Dark World. This is probably bottom of A tier. This is a very good card. This is the most recent Dark World card that's come out. It came out in
Rise of the Duelist?
It came out recently. It was Rise of the Duelist or then maybe Phantom Rage.
Maybe before them actually.
It was one of those 2 sets. But
I think it was the same one with the Penguin guy. But yeah.
It's definitely a very, very good
Yeah, this is actually
it's
the
a very
first
good
one
card.
out of all those cards we've done so far. This is the first one that's a hard once per turn. Like
Yeah.
once per, you can only do it once per turn. And what it does is you target a level 4 lower fiend in your graveyard, and then you discard. You summon it and discard a fiend monster, which is like it's a Dark World card by name, but it's actually pretty generic because you can summon any fiend monster and discard any fiend monster. Well, more often than not, you're discarding that Dark World for their effect. But you can summon any fiend monster, meaning like you can summon the barrier statue like you said earlier, or like just other
Ceruli.
Ceruli to pot. Yeah, it's a discard. I can't think off the top of my head like other good level 4 lower fiends, but I remember
Chupacabra you can summon off from the
Chupacabra,
graveyard.
yeah, going to like rank 4s and stuff like that. This card helps out a lot actually within the deck. It was actually a very nice piece of good support.
There's cool combos that you can do. Like you can revive a copy of Snow, and then you can discard a copy of Grapha, pop a card, and you can activate Grapha to bounce the Snow back and summon the Grapha. Like there's a lot of synergy that you can do with this. There's a lot of combos that you can do. There's a lot of just smart plays that you can make. It's a very good card, and it's searchable. So you only have to run like one copy of the card anyway. You just search it off of Snow whenever you need it. You don't have to run multiples. Next is Dark World Lightning.
I actually like Dark World Lightning a lot, but it's only going an only going second card.
Yeah.
You target a set card on the field, destroy it, and then discard one card. So you're getting rid of one of the cards while, I guess you could say like starting.
Yeah.
Your engine. It's hard to say what the actual like engine is because you're just kind of discarding and just building up your board with the monsters you summon. So it's hard to say that you're starting, but like you're doing something. You're doing something progressive because it's like a neg one for your opponent. You get the deal.
What's the official name of the next one? Dark World.
Gateway to Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird because none of them say to the. It's just to Dark World.
This card
Dark World
is it's not a great card. Basically, you can summon a Dark World monster from your graveyard, and then you basically summon a Dark World monster from your graveyard, and you can't summon for the rest of that turn. So it's not the best card. None of the Dark World monsters have like floodgate effects, so it's not like it's a great benefit to summon it during your opponent's turn. Like there's no real advantage to using this card during your opponent's turn, even though it is a quick play.
The only thing I could think of would just be to set it and then summon a Ceruli during your opponent's turn.
Yeah, to discard an additional card, but that's about it. Other than that, like you would never want to activate this during your turn because then you're locked out of things, out of summoning. So for that reason, I don't think it's very good. Next is Grimoire of Dark World. This card's not good at all. I think this might be even the worst card. Basically, with this card, if you discard a card because you exceeded the hand size limit, you can target one of those monsters that you discarded because you exceeded your hand size limit, and then add that target, or special summon that card target back to the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's just never happens. Like it just straight up never happens in the deck. It's such a bad card.
And it's so slow because it has to be during the end phase.
Yeah.
And if you have all those cards in your hand, you're probably not doing something right because you probably don't have much of anything on the field at that point, really.
Yeah, it's not a great card. I don't even remember the last time in a game of Yu-Gi-Oh that I discarded because my hand size limit was too big. It just doesn't make sense. Next is the Gates of Dark World. This is their field spell. It would be higher, but the card actually requires a lot of setup to use. So basically it is searchable, so you only have to play one. But basically what it has to do is you banish a fiend to discard a fiend to draw a card. Or I'm sorry, to draw a card to discard a fiend, is that it?
No, you
discard a fiend, then draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
But it's effect, not cost, so it's still fine even though you discard first. But basically you have to have a fiend already in the graveyard to banish. You have to have a fiend in the hand to use, and then you draw a card. The benefit over this card, over Dark World Dealings, is that
it's only for you.
It's only for you. It's not for your opponent, so you're not feeding your opponent free cards and cleaning up their hand.
And this card's a soft once per turn, so you could run multiple of it, and it's actually searchable by Snow. Snow's the one that searches, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually searchable by Snow, so you can actually, like, discard Snow, draw a card, and then Snow's effect, add another one, and do the same thing all over again, banishing that same Snow you discarded. So it's a really interesting card in that sense.
Shackles we're not going to review because this card is actually not within the archetype.
Yeah.
This card, basically every Dark World card that is Dark World in two words is a Dark World like archetype card. This is Dark World in a single name, so it's not actually within the archetype. Snow can't search it. It's not in the archetype. Next is the Forces of Darkness,
which isn't a Dark World card by name.
It's not Dark World by name, so that makes the card slightly worse. It's still a halfway decent card. It's the top of D tier. Basically, it lets you target 2 Dark World monsters in your graveyard and add those targets to the hand. It's not the worst card. It's actually kind of like good. I wish this card wasn't on a trap card. I wish it was on a spell card. Or maybe like a quick play, like anything else. I wish this card was not on a trap card, basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's main. Like, it's not a bad effect. It's just not good for those reasons.
And then
Dark World
Brainwashing. This is a continuous trap.
Yeah.
When your opponent's monster activates its effect, while you have 3 or more cards in your hand, you can target a Dark World on the field, return it to the hand, and then the activated effect becomes discard 1 card from your opponent's hand. So what it does is like it lets you it's sort of like a negate. Like changing an effect is basically like a negate, right? So if they activate something crazy, like they're starting their needle fiber play or something, and then you flip this, so the needle fiber becomes your opponent discards 1 card, and so you have 4 Dark Worlds in your hand most likely, and you discard 1, and you get the effect during their turn. So you can discard like a Silva, you can discard a Grapha, you can discard something crazy just so you can disrupt them during their turn, which is really cool.
The only issue with the card is that you have to have 3 cards in your hand when you activate it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, because you usually spit out your entire hand when you play this deck, but like this is a very good effect. But the problem is you have to spit out your entire you will usually use your entire hand and be left with nothing in this deck. So leaving 3 cards in your hand is just it just never happens, and that's probably why it's so bad. If it was like, you know, if you have had at least 1 monster in your hand or 2 monsters in your hand, it would, or 2 cards in your hand, it wouldn't be as bad. But leaving 3 cards in your hand is a lot of cards. So for that reason, I'm not too happy with this card, and that's why it is where it is. But that is it. That is every single Dark World card ranked and reviewed. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe. Have a great day, and thank you for watching. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this type of content, check out the other videos on the channel, and please subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. Again, thank you so much. Have a terrific day.